Hey y'all, Boogie Knight here. How's it going? And yep, welcome back to another review when we're talking about 80s slasher movies. Of course, got the fantastic Rokkit88 with me again. Hey Rokkit, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Perfect. So continuing with our little 80s mini arc as we've been doing, we're continuing the Sleepaway Camp saga, and we actually watched Sleepaway Camp 2 the same day after watching Sleepaway Camp 1, so we just kind of went on a binge of the entire saga, except for Sleepaway Camp 4, which is going to be coming up down the pike, as well as Cold Brook Lake. Have you heard about that one coming out yet?
No, what is that?
It's apparently a movie supposed to come out sometime this year about how a bunch of paranormal investigators went back to Cold Brook Lake, formerly Camp Arawak.
No kidding.
Yes. I just
Oh,
actually.
that's awesome.
Oh, I actually, because when I was on Wikipedia earlier today looking up just some basic information on Sleepaway Camp 2, it's in Cold Brook Lake. I'm like, wait, what?
Right?
Pardon? Coming out in 2019? You have my attention.
That's awesome.
Well, could be. I mean, at least it wasn't Sleepaway Camp 4. But, anyways, so
Never know.
true. I mean, well, it couldn't be any. This is true. We'll see though. But, anyways, so Sleepaway Camp 2 is a 1988 slasher sequel to the original Sleepaway Camp, although it was a different director. And as Rock and I talked about previously, Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 can pretty much be watched out of sequence from the first one. So while it is technically a sequel, it's a non-canon sequel.
Right. Hence based based on characters created by Robert Heinlein.
Exactly. I mean, different director. This one was directed by Andy Simpson, I believe.
I think you're right.
Yeah, Simpson or Samson, something or other. And now, for me personally, since I actually rewatched it this morning, since it's been a hot second since
Yeah.
we watched it originally, it kind of felt like, obviously it wasn't as good as Sleepaway Camp 1. Let's get brass tacks out of the way.
Indeed.
But it kind of felt like the director was trying to recapture everything from the original Sleepaway Camp, except X amount of years later, and instead of having that atmosphere, it kind of just felt forced.
Yeah, it was what one might call an epic fail.
It really was quite the train wreck, but I mean, it's a train wreck that I would watch again, but at the same time, it'd be like, I would want, as we discussed already, like I said, watch the second one and the third one before watching the first one. Otherwise, you're just going to be kind of plateauing early.
Well, I agree. Um, let's see. Okay, so the first thing about Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers is that it is, without a doubt, one of those so bad it's good movies, like The Room.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, it really is. That's a great way to describe it.
Because it's so much fun.
I mean, it
So
really,
much fun. It's a train wreck,
yeah,
but man, what a ride.
it really is. I mean, and I hate this is gonna. I'm not trying to pun. I mean, it really was like pure '80s campy horror.
Yeah.
Whereas Sleepaway Camp 1 had this general feeling of unease about like what the hell is going on. This one just
Yeah.
was like a frat party horror movie.
Yeah. It definitely kind of reminded me of like the sorority house movies.
Oh God, yeah. That's another good one.
Oh yeah, we might have to tackle that one.
But
But there are like 8 movies.
yeah, well, we were going to be watching all this Hellraisers anyway, so
That's a good point.
strap yourself in, folks.
Throw that on the list.
All right, I'll do that one next. Um,
So let's see. What are we gonna delve into about this shit pile first?
I think honestly, since once again, like the first Sleepaway Camp, the cinematography, there's nothing really to talk about. I mean, the only thing that was markedly different for this one was that I feel like there were more scenes where it was just like a focus on the actual characters, like motions. Like there's a scene when Angela's walking through the woods, and it's just like a complete close-up of just her shoes and her ankles and her socks, and you don't know if it is Angela or somebody else. There's just this assumption going on. So I will say the difference between this one and the last one is that I think the director had more time to go, we could probably build on this sense of horror by doing different kind of camera shots, much like Suspiria, the original.
I think you're giving him a little bit too much credit because I would say if I had to pick one thing that I, honest to God, did not like about the sequels, these particular sequels anyway, is that they give it away up front.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, I definitely think that is a big detractor. Now, obviously, we'll talk about the atmosphere towards later on, but I mean that is a point that I definitely wanted to bring up. Was this one? That's the big detractor, though, for the sequels, is that you do know pretty much everything right out of the bucket.
Yep.
Within the first 5 minutes, boom. Oh, thanks.
Yeah. You're just like, well, thanks for that.
Yeah, I
Why
mean,
am I still watching this?
well, 5 minutes in, done. Click. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe.
Exactly. The end credit scene.
I mean, I don't know any director that actually lets you know pretty much right out of the gate what's happening, like 30, like less than the first, you know, eighth of a movie. That's actually like, here's what's going on. I mean,
Maybe the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
yeah, but that had a supernatural aspect to it.
Like that's fair.
I mean, usually, I mean, and even going back to like James Wan movies, like for example, in Lights Out, in the first 5 minutes, you get a good glimpse of the monster.
Okay.
But that's a different movie we have to watch.
Yeah, because I haven't seen that one.
Well, but I mean, I'm not spoiling anything for you.
Apparently not.
Otherwise, I would tell you.
Okay.
But whereas for this one, you definitely you find out right out immediately. Angela is back and better than ever.
Indeed.
Still a
You do realize I watch your reviews, right?
well, obviously.
So I did see your review of Lights Out.
Oh, okay. So you did see that one with Neosonic.
I did.
Well, spoiler alert.
Too late.
Great. No, you still get to experience the full color of the movie anyway.
That's true.
But with this, though, yeah, it definitely feels like the director had really kind of a general sense of what to do and then just said, you know what, I don't care.
Well, if I was going to be wax analytical about it,
Mm-hmm.
I would say this guy went to film school.
Mm-hmm.
So he used those strategies and tactics to set up a world, but all the time knowing that he's making a sequel where the biggest part of the movie was the twist at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he ran with, was
Right.
that character and that established twist.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's even a couple of points of the movie where you know exactly what happened with Angela after that moment.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. So then let me ask you this then, or what I call the Suspiria theory would be, if this movie had any kind of title other than Sleepaway Camp 2, like even something like, Angela Baker, camp counselor, something like that, would you be any less disappointed? Knowing that it's part of the Sleepaway Camp ilk, but at the same time not being a direct association with it.
I mean, in all honesty, I really wasn't all that disappointed with the movie because, again, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. No, it really is.
I would say if you're a highbrow movie goer, then you're not gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can appreciate some
Hot
of these
garbage.
areas, yeah, if you can appreciate some of what is going on here and how a lot of it makes no sense, or like there's a point in time where a dead body is breathing.
Oh God, yeah, that was pretty funny.
Like if you're not looking for, Citizen Kane in this crappy sequel,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing to really be disappointed in. Especially like if, as you say, if you watch the sequels first, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a single reason in the world to be disappointed, except for, I would say, if you didn't, your immediate thought is why isn't this as good as the first one?
Exactly. And I think that's the
Like,
hardest part.
it really is. Like when we were watching these, um, especially the second one, I was like, yeah, don't reference a better movie in your movie.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it gets a little too meta.
Yeah, kind of like they're winking at us, like, oh, we know it's bad. And we know you know it's bad. But isn't it fun?
So,
Yeah, it is. Now stop fucking with me.
so you think it's kind of like they were a little bit too self-aware?
I mean, they make a Halloween, a Friday the 13th, and a Nightmare on
Right on
Elm
Elm
Street
Street.
reference
Yeah.
in this movie
Mm-hmm.
while talking about the plot of the original. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, even in the first 1 minute when they're sitting around the campfire, telling the
Hmm.
story about Angela, I'm thinking, oh my god.
Yep,
And then of course you have to have token like pervy kid sitting around there that had no context to the rest of the movie except for comic relief.
indeed.
But I think this whole movie in general. Well, let's segue and talk about the atmosphere because I guess it's a great way to go into it. Is like as you said, I mean, it's so comedic and it's almost precious.
Yes.
And I wouldn't even say there's cheap jump scares because it's not even jump scares. It's stuff that you can sense happening. Like, okay, turn around the corner, and there's the death in a very over the top fashion.
Yeah, I would say maybe the one thing that I might count as a jump scare because you kind of don't see it coming is the first murder.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see
And
that.
I was like, oh shit, we're not setting up a damn thing, are we?
We're just going right into the mix.
Yeah, like that little campfire bullshit was the setup, literally.
Mm-hmm. It really was.
Just like if you didn't see the first movie, this is what it was. Now let's kill some people.
Kind of like Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2.
Yes, indeed.
How the first half was just a recap of the of the first movie in general.
I know, man, that thing went on forever.
Yeah, Silent Night Deadly Night 2 was I think it was like maybe like an hour and 45 minutes, and for like the first hour, it's just retelling the story.
It was that recap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good lord. And he couldn't act. Okay, we watched a different movie.
Oh yeah. So by the way, we watched a movie. um,
Yeah, I could talk about that one for a minute too. But no, we watched a different movie that I kind of enjoyed a little bit more, actually, if I'm being honest.
I mean, yeah, I mean, but then again, one last thing to talk about Silent Night Deadly Night. I mean, yeah, this movie though atmosphere-wise is completely different from the Silent Night Deadly Nights anyway. So,
It is. You know, one thing actually that really does bother me, aside from, there's no mystery to it.
mm-hmm.
Angela. Angela's character is not what we got from the first one.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Like in the first one, she's withdrawn through half the movie. She doesn't speak.
right.
She stares at everything like she's there, like trying to figure it out or like it's beneath her in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this one, you get this fun, bright, she knows the camp songs and
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to connect with some of the kids. That
Right.
was weird, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it could be debated that towards the end, when she's giving her big explanation and she's talking about what went on between the first and the second movie,
Hmm.
that maybe that's what caused her to do this 180 like turnabout from her original character to present.
I took it more as like this was her reform.
Gotcha. Reform School Part 2. There's another bad movie.
Well, it was kind of like not in that way necessarily, but that she really did legitimately feel like she was better,
Mm-hmm.
even though she's still killing people.
Yeah, even though she's
It
still a
was
pure
kind of like,
sociopath.
yes, she's still killing people. Let's see, we're not talking about plot just yet,
No.
but so we'll skip over a couple of things. But she really does feel like this is the mental space that she's supposed to be in.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, and I think it kind of goes back to how people refer to her as the angel of death.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what she's doing. I mean, for all intents and purposes, she's doing the same thing that other people were doing when she was killing in the first one. Instead of people bullying her, it's people that she doesn't feel are, I guess, pure enough.
Yes. Absolutely. It's a moral high ground for
Mm-hmm.
her, which is again kind of like going back to her being reformed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since she feels like she's reformed, she has to reform everybody else.
Yes.
But I still think going back to how there was, the atmosphere or lack thereof in this, I think the comedy definitely just made it hilarious. I mean, the mullets were back in force.
Oh yes. Oh, the mullets
Ugh, so many mullets.
and the short shorts, the
Hmm.
short tight shorts, no less.
Yeah, seriously, like if you sneeze, you're screwed.
Oh yeah.
And there was a fair amount of screwing in this movie
Might
too.
castrate yourself.
Oh God,
Yeah, there's a good amount of what does she call it, fornicating.
fornicating. Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's just so weird. Like I remember like we were talking about how the word moist like throws people off.
yeah.
I think the word fornicate throws me off a little bit.
She's probably has a disease from fornicating so much.
Like every time, and she says it a lot. She said it a lot in this movie, and I'm just like, the word's making me slightly uncomfortable.
I think she definitely had a little too much fun saying that.
Maybe.
But then again, I
Maybe.
think that kind of reflects, and we'll talk about the characters in a little bit, obviously. I think that reflects on Angela's character just a little bit, that she doesn't want to use these words like, screwing or fucking or things like that.
Yeah,
And
she doesn't want to like swear or be aggressive with her words.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that kind of, maybe that can be argued that they maybe throws the viewer off balance so they don't know what's happening because maybe they blinked in the first 5 minutes.
Maybe.
Once again, I'm probably giving the director way too much credit.
I think you are. I really do think that that was the character that they had established Angela would be.
Hmm. But I mean, it's just, I mean, and then of course you had like young Will Ferrell as Angela's co-camp counselor.
Yeah, I know, right? He does. He does look like young Will Ferrell.
He really
Um,
does.
I think maybe part of it, actually, if I was going to give the director a pass, is that Angela in the first movie doesn't speak much
Hmm.
at all. Even when she does speak, she doesn't say very much. She says a couple of words
Until the very end.
until the very end, and even then, it's still not a lot of words.
Hmm.
It's setting up something rather horrible.
But it worked for that, and then seeing
Yeah,
this
because it
complete
was very
shift.
ominous.
Exactly. But then having this complete shift, to the chatty, wanting to
Oh yeah,
bond with people.
she's like a chatty Cathy.
Hmm. Exactly. I will say this
Yeah,
though. I mean, while a lot of the characters really kind of felt out of place, having the two young kids that were probably barely double digits, or the two perverts.
Charlie and Amelia. Let's
Yes.
talk about that for a second.
Here, okay, so let's talk about testosterone-related kids. Now that there's a similarity we can compare the first one to this one is like the sex drive among everybody.
Actually, I was talking about the fact that their names are Charlie and Amelia.
Okay.
Well, what Charlie and Amelia do we know?
Oh boy.
Charlie Sheen and
The
Amelia
rest of
Estevez.
as. Oh my God.
Yeah, and the main character, quote unquote, her name is Molly.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Um, the black chick is Demi.
Right.
So these are Brat Pack names
Mm-hmm.
from the 80s.
Well, I'll be damned. I didn't even think about that. Maybe just because in a movie like this, you really don't want to analyze it too much.
In all honesty, I really do think that the whole time the director is making this and the writer wrote what they wrote, it was a wink at the audience.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Definitely think so.
It's kind of like, we're not taking this seriously. You shouldn't take it seriously either.
Mm-hmm.
If you're paying attention, here are the names of these ridiculous people.
But most people probably aren't paying attention.
I mean, there comes like a certain point where you're just like, it's cannon fodder, like shooting fish in a barrel. You're just waiting for people to die.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
I,
I mean, we can talk about like, again, everybody is filled with hormones,
mm-hmm. I
much
just
like in the first one.
I just feel like this one in particular. I mean, just having the two having Charlie and Emilio, it just seemed really out of place because everybody else was with like their mid-teens.
Yeah, being played by like 20-year-olds.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And then you
They had to be.
and then you had the two young kids whose whole purpose there was for even more comic relief.
Yeah.
Snapping nudes of the girls.
Yeah. That was I didn't like that. I was just like, this is kind of weird
Awkward.
for me. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure every camp has that one story of the two perverts
Oh, for
that
sure.
tried
Well,
to
I
sneak
mean,
over to the girls' cabins or the guys' cabins to snap, dirty pics.
and they do the panty raid.
They do the panty raid. Of course, that goes back into like the hormones,
Indeed.
and then the girls go all try to steal their panties back by shaving creaming the dudes.
So even at least we know that the people who made the movie were having fun too.
I mean, this is going to be a very broad comparison because it's like comparing apples to atom bombs. Is just how you keep going back. How it's like a wink to the audience and just like the people having fun. It reminds me so much of Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas.
I think we've talked about that previously too.
Well, I mean, it's just because it's so like you could just tell that the directors and the actors are just like, here's the broad topic. Let's just have a little bit of fun with
Let's
it.
have some fun with it. And, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of like, well, why not? Why not have fun? If somebody is giving you money to make a piece of shit,
Mm-hmm.
have fun making that piece of shit and don't make it, a miserable experience or try to turn it into something profound.
Mm-hmm. Because the first one did that. But even the first one was silly at times.
Yeah, the first one had some moments where I was just like, is that acting?
Probably not. But I mean,
Kind of like, are they serious with this right now?
but I mean, I think the characters, the hormone-laden atmosphere of the kids being forced to go to camp for the summertime, and all that stuff. I mean, I think that actually worked well with the character interactions with each other. Like, when what's his name? The actual guy that was actually somewhat decent. I forget his name. The girl's quote unquote boyfriend.
Was it Sean?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm looking all of this stuff up right now, actually.
Okay. And
So Molly was actually played by Renee Estevez.
oh, there you go. But I mean, you have Sean and then the kid with the gold chain,
Oh, Robert
Rob.
Hiltzik, that's his name. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because then you have how Sean is like the only the token quote unquote straight actor in this movie because he's actually
Indeed.
in the same case with Molly is that they're the two actually playing it right.
Yeah, and especially like if you're thinking about in terms of the slasher genre,
Mm-hmm.
there's gonna be the virgin and the jock.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But I mean,
So there's that.
yeah, and that worked well though. That was really good chemistry between Molly and Sean.
It did work well. Let's see. My favorite romance was the one in the third one, but we'll talk about that when we get to it because it's still kind of upsetting.
Foreshadowing.
I might have been the only one that reacted that way, but well, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, that'll come up in a couple of weeks. But
Indeed.
I mean, even just like seeing these people thrown together.
Oh, this was filmed in Georgia.
Despite the fact that the camp supposedly took place in upstate New York.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, no, it took place. Yeah, it was filmed in Georgia.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that means that the sequel was also filmed in Georgia.
Oh my god. Now we're really gonna have some fun picking this apart.
So yeah, a fun trivia fact is that both sequels were shot like back to back because they were running out of time and money.
Somehow I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised.
Because you could definitely see that in the third one.
Another fun trivia fact is that Angela is played by Pamela Springsteen. Who is Bruce Springsteen's sister.
Rock on. So I guess she really was dancing in the dark, but Tish.
Wow. Not with her brother.
Well, obviously not, but... Well, that's because Ricky wasn't in this one. Hey!
That was her cousin.
Whatever. That too.
It's still in the family. Yeah.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Okay. So now that we got that out of the way, what's next?
No, I was just gonna say, like, but even just going back to like just the interactions with the characters in general, with these people that are thrown into a camp that don't know each other at all.
It was, and that's a really good point. Is that it is they're very weird interactions
Hmm.
because we know that these people don't know each other,
Right.
but they act so familial in a way.
Hmm. I mean, a very messed up family, but still familial with each other.
Yeah, and it's like there's just like a real level of comfort, which again tells me that they had a blast doing this, even though it was shit.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because you could kind of tell that all the actors liked each other.
Hmm. I mean, even when Sean is interacting with Rob, and yeah, I will say Rob was down and out contemptuous.
Indeed,
Then again, I guess he gets what he deserves, hooking up with the cheerleader,
indeed.
and her just barely giving him the brush off. Now that was a bye Felicia moment, was when she just gets up and walks away.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye Felicia. But that's a different movie on the list.
Indeed.
Um, but yeah, so I think that was just really well done because it was like Sean and Rob, just going back to them for a second. It's like the cousins that they're like, okay, we really, I guess we have to tolerate each other. So it is kind of like a grudging acceptance.
Hmm.
And then Holly and what was the cheerleader's name? Amber?
Um, it's gonna be part of the Brat Pack. Her name was Allie, I think.
Allie. Yeah, that was it. I mean, how the goody that is, that is her versus Allie being the rebellious nymphomaniac.
Yeah, she. Okay, what happens to her is disgusting.
Yeah, no, what happened to her is
That was
awful.
maybe a part that yeah, that was maybe a part where I was just like, no, no, thank you.
I mean, I get the symbolism, you know, insert film break quote here, symbolism. But
Sym-
go ahead, sorry.
oh no, I was just saying symbolism.
Exactly. Or I guess we're going to go back to the nostalgia critic. Ask me what it means.
Indeed. Um, I mean, there's really not a whole lot of groundbreaking atmospheric stuff to talk about,
There really isn't.
and there's zero um, character development
Exactly.
or exposition. Like, there's none, because you know up front who the killer is.
Hmm.
Um, all the walking body bags are established as walking body
Walking
bags.
potty bags. Nice.
That's kind of sorry,
Yeah, how
but
do you
that
really
is
feel
kind of
about them?
how I know, but that's how I feel about it when something like that is given away. Like if I go to watch a Rob Zombie movie, um, I know that everybody is going to be an unlikable piece of shit and
Hmm.
going to get killed more than likely.
Yeah. But I mean,
So I mean, I have no reservations about what I'm getting myself into when
mhm,
I watch, like the Sleepaway Camp sequels or a Rob Zombie film.
true. But I mean, then again, I had no feelings for anybody in this movie at all,
Nope.
except for Uncle John, the head camp counselor.
Oh yeah, because he was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he was just trying to do his job. I mean, it wasn't like the head camp counselor from the first Sleepaway Camp, where
He was
he's just
sweeping everything under the rug, and
precisely
yeah,
just
no, this guy actually reprimands Angela when she quote unquote sends
as the
people
kids home.
home.
Yeah, but I mean,
We'll get to that.
yeah, we'll definitely get to that during when we talk about the plot. But I mean, going back to the twist
Plot.
though, say again.
I said
Yeah,
plot.
but using that term very loosely, plot.
Yes, indeed.
But I think the twist at the end was just really I could have done without it. It was a take it or leave it moment.
That was just sequel baiting.
Well, yeah, of course.
It wasn't even a twist.
Well, I mean, it could be the quote unquote because you saw it coming a mile away. But I think the only thing that could ever be construed as a twist was with Molly.
In what way?
That watching it the first time, and I'm not saying the first time you and I watched it, I'm saying years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
was I almost expected it to be, I half expected it to be like Stockholm Syndrome.
Uh, okay.
Like, what's her name? Like, Angela sort of grooming Molly to be kind of just like her.
Okay.
Mind you, when I saw it, I was barely, out of my single digits.
So kind of like an if the tree falls thing.
Exactly.
Did you see that movie?
I've heard all about that sort of thing, but that is not something I've actually seen at all.
Uh, you're never gonna see it because it's almost impossible to find. So basically, at the end of that
You tease.
movie, it's almost impossible to find. Like if you can find it, you get a cookie and a trophy.
Sweet.
But so maybe now I shouldn't say it. But
Well,
anyway, well, what you're talking about happens in the movie.
gotcha. Okay. I mean, so for me, it was almost like a reverse twist. Like, because I had this anticipation that because Angela and Molly were so close to each other,
Yeah.
and this whole thing about keep your morals, and then I think maybe even giving the director way too much credit here, maybe, that was what the director was trying to intend, and then all of a sudden, nope, plot twist.
I think you're giving him too much credit.
More
I
than
do.
likely. More than likely.
One thing that I will say, even though I just listed it as a drawback, is that Angela, in a lot of ways, is very likable. She's
Yeah.
not relatable.
Mm-hmm.
The version of Angela that we get in the first one was more relatable, and she says like 15 words.
Right.
But in the sequel, she's like the sunny, cheery person, and she doesn't take shit, and she expects people to be better versions of themselves. She really does.
Yeah, but that's not what happens at camp.
I mean, it's not like you go to camp to find yourself. That's what college is for.
Exactly.
Or McDonald's, depending on what track you're on.
Oh, good lord.
I am being honest.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a liberal arts degree.
Whoa. Shit. We can't all fucking get degrees in finance, okay?
Well, once again, like you play Avenue Q, there's the song "What Do You Do with a BA in English."
Mm.
No, there's another movie we have to watch.
Yeah, I got wise and got a degree in healthcare because I was just like, I will get a job. That is what I care about.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I got a degree in public relations. Found a lot of good it got me, but still. But I mean, going back to what you said is that Angela definitely in this one, she is likable because she wants to reach out to these kids.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, I can't call them silver spoon snubs because a lot of the times there's talk about how their parents couldn't afford it.
Yeah. That actually comes out in the plot. Are we gonna get into that now, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to segue into the plot.
Yeah, indeed. So I mean, this is gonna be a bad segue because we're not starting at the beginning. But
Well, we've
it
already
does
talked about the
come
beginning.
out. We did. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It does come out though that these kids are at this particular camp because they got like sharp discounts because that was the only way that they could get people to go to this place where like 15 people died.
Well, and
because they got murdered.
Well, yeah, and plus a lot of the kids are legacy kids too. I mean, there's instances where like, well, this kid's been coming here to this camp. This is his 4th year.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's almost to me kind of feels like, and there's also talk about how the kids don't get along with their parents. Like Sean says, he doesn't get along with his mom, and it's better than going to camp than being at home, even though he's not a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for a lot of the times, it almost feels like this is the only means of escape before going back to school.
It's the only way any of them can get out, and maybe even Angela's escaping in a way.
I think so, too.
She has to be, because she came out of a fucking mental institution.
After all the things that happened to her between the first and the second movie.
Yeah, and we'll get there.
Well, exactly. So you guys, the viewers, have already heard what happens in the first 5 minutes. You know, Angela comes back and she already makes her first killing,
Indeed.
and
She
then
cuts my girl's tongue out.
after she beats her brains in with a gigantic piece of wood.
Yeah, and I think again that really caught me off guard because even though I knew that this was our Angela, I
hmm
was not expecting that shit.
So quickly.
No, I was not expecting it. Like almost right out of the gate, I was just like, oh damn, God, her brains.
Splattered everywhere.
And it's like, 1 second, I will BRB. I'll be
Exactly.
right back.
Okay.
No, I'll be right back. Like seriously.
Okay.
Sorry,
It's, o-
sorry.
it's okay. No worries. But yeah, so kind of going from there, it immediately goes into the introduction to the other characters, and Angela is kind of chiding them. It's like a mixture of both trying to be friendly with them, but then you kind of are introduced to two different characters. Allie, who wakes up out of bed topless, borderline naked, and Ant's like, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not a pure thing to do. So you're kind of introduced a little bit to maybe Angela's kind of like, okay, you can kind of see her trying to counteract to be more pure, which is something Rokkit and I had just talked about earlier. But at the same time, she's still very bubbly, and you kind of slowly get this sense of who the characters are and their personalities are like, from Allie to Emilio and Charlie, the two kind of perverted kids of trying to take pictures of her while she's naked. You don't get to meet all of them, the characters all the people at the camp, because then again, you only have about a little over a dozen kids at this camp, which to me personally is a little bit different, just because usually when you're at camp, you get to meet a lot of other people. So then just having this niche group of individuals was a little bit different.
And I'm back.
Hey, welcome back.
Star was auditioning for The Voice, apparently.
Oh, good for Star.
It was a joke.
Well, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what goes on, but
She actually has auditioned before.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, good on her.
indeed.
But yeah, so I was just kind of saying, like, you get to meet the core, like, of Allie and Molly and Sean and Rob and the other comic, and Charlie and Amelia and the titular shit sisters, which
Yeah.
were pretty much just there for one purpose only.
Why did you use the word titular?
Well, I mean, just because, like, every kind of like 80s slash movie has like that one kind of butt monkey like character or characters.
Okay, so that's more like a trope. Titular means that the character's name is in the title.
Okay, fair. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, but usually when I hear that, I always associate with them having some sort of like singular role.
Yeah, and I feel you because Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a point.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, okay. So wrong choice of semantics, right choice of the way I was trying to refer to them.
Yes.
But I mean, the Shit Sisters basically had no point except for brief comic relief, and then, as you would say, meat bags.
Walking body bags.
Exactly, walking body bags.
That scene was weird.
Oh,
Dude.
oh, the scene when they died.
Yes.
Oh yeah, seriously. I mean, I really kind of felt like I was watching it from like another perspective entirely, because you have these other deaths that are occurring throughout the course of this movie, and then you have them.
Okay, so to break down what happens, one sister wakes up from something. I can't remember. Did they get knocked out?
Well, first it's introduced because they're off smoking weed and getting hammered.
Yes.
And
that's what it was. It was probably like a weed nap type.
Well, no, because and then Angela happens upon them, and one of them is currently in the process of making a two-backed monster with another rando camp goer.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
yes.
And then it's assumed or alluded to that she knocks them out.
Yeah.
Because one of them is just laughing and giggling and completely gone out of her brain.
Oh yeah, that's right. They don't really like show you what happens.
Hmm.
And you don't even know what happened to the stud.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
But like one sister wakes up and the other one has been burnt to
To a
a crisp.
crisp. There's the skeleton staring at her.
Yes. And I'm kind of like, so you didn't smell a human body cooking. You didn't hear her screaming because you know she did.
Yeah, I can. Well, I don't think it's usually taken into account because they probably just assumed that she was so far gone on substances and then gets knocked out on top of that that she could have just easily slept through the whole thing. But that scene in general was just weird. Just her sister being grilled in front of her and then just waking up and then there's Snaggletooth Grin staring her right in the face.
I doubt that there's a person alive on this planet that has ever been that fucking high.
Well, yeah, but once again, 80s movie.
It is an 80s movie, and it's a really bad horror movie, so
Hmm.
there has to be some suspension of disbelief. But even that's giving this movie too much credit because there's nothing to really disbelieve. Just like none of this is believable.
Well, I think that's the problem with you and I because we love horror movies so much is we keep trying to find that like lump of gold within like the pile of shit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, you know what like rough diamonds look like.
well,
They
yeah,
look like rocks.
exactly,
So, we're just trying to squeeze these rocks into diamonds.
and just it's not working for this particular movie.
Not I would say, I mean, if you're looking for anything really clever, no.
No, but returning to the plot, like it's
Yeah.
just it's she is taking on Angel's killing these people that basically have no morals
Yes.
for one reason or the next, whether it's they're talking back to her too much, whether it's Charlie and Emilio taking nudie shots.
If you're a massive slut, if you're a drug addict.
It's almost kind of like a weird version of Seven,
It is kind of like a weird version of Seven.
because like each thing is based upon this morally black thing that she absolutely detests.
Yeah, but I mean, in Seven, so does John Doe, almost to the T, if you think about it.
Yeah, but John Doe actually had focus on it being with the seven deadly sins, whereas to this one, it's just
Yeah.
stuff that Angela despises. One person's trash is another person's treasure. In this case, vice versa.
Yeah. Well, I think like what's interesting is that even Angela harkens back to the first movie. Like she talks about things that her aunt would say, or
Yes,
she would compare the people who are just gonna die to people that she killed in the first one.
I really I will say this. I did like how she brought her aunt in on occasion.
Yep.
Like, stay true to your morals and nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's really interesting considering how her aunt treated her in the first one.
Yeah. You kind of wonder if she maybe didn't have her aunt's blessing in a weird way.
Yeah, I guess kind of. I mean, that makes sense. But at the
Well,
same,
you see what the woman is like. She's like high on helium or something.
and have a great time at camp, kids.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm not going to come back from camp just because you scare the shit out of me.
Goodness, no, that wouldn't do at all.
Oh my god. Now that's a cut the pills in half kind of situation.
Yes, indeed.
Or better yet, don't take the pills at all.
So we watched a different movie.
Yeah, so once again, how many tangents can Rokkit and Boogie Knight go off on?
Uh, we do it all the time. Um,
Damn right.
let's see. I know that this is the second review, but I'm referring to uh, other instances. Anyway,
It's all good.
so let's see. What else?
But I mean, at the same time, she's trying to develop this friendship with Molly. It's like those are based. It's almost got this like you and me against the world kind of vibe.
Well, it kind of does. Ooh, bless the stream. 2 seconds.
Okay, no worries. The train's going by. That's what's happening. So, you know, Molly and Angela kind of have this friendship. it doesn't feel too forced. It actually does, in some cases, feel natural and organic. When there's one scene when Molly goes to Angela for advice about her romantic pursuits with Sean, and Angela almost
Okay,
blesses that relationship between
she
Sean and
does
Molly.
because she likes Sean too.
hmm So, and I think that's kind of what leads to the eventual demise of Allie.
Getting too close to Angela and not seeing the woods for the trees.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
As well as just like this build up of just contempt against her. So like you knew it was coming pretty much within the first 10 minutes of the movie. Like, okay, this woman's fertilizer.
You can tell that they're all fertilizer. Like
Well, yeah.
to say that Angela is actually a likable character. None of the campers like her
hmm
because she's strict and no nonsense and expects them to behave in a I'm not going to really say chaste, but in a respectable way.
Yeah, I was gonna say saying chaste is a little bit too or too much or way too high of an expectation.
Right. And I don't think that like she's necessarily unrealistic. She just expects them to be more respectable as young women.
Exactly. Whereas TC, the camp counselor for the guys, aka young Will Ferrell,
Yes, indeed.
just couldn't care less.
No, she's just like, oh, you're gonna go off and screw that boy in the woods, are you? Well, here's a condom.
Exactly. He's like, wear protection. But I mean, that scene when Allie does die, as you said, was pretty grotesque when she pretty much is shoved into an outhouse.
Yes. Oh God, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And she ends up covered in leeches and shit.
hmm And
It's gross.
and then every time somebody dies, Angela just tells Uncle John, which is actually the character's name in the movie,
Yep.
um, that she sent them home, and he starts getting more and more perturbed about it.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Part of this is because he's losing money,
Well, yeah. I mean, that kind of harkens back to the first one.
but the other part of it is that she's overstepping her bounds.
Exactly, and particularly since she is the rookie at the camp.
Yeah, it's her first year.
So she almost becomes, I wouldn't say drunk with power per se, but within the first 10 minutes, she is named Camp Counselor of the Week. So, I mean, it's either her or TC.
Yeah, that's true.
So it
Um,
almost, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to
You
say,
go.
so it almost feels like having that, she almost kind of turns into Judge Dredd a little bit, like I am the law.
It's a very good comparison. But interestingly, she and Uncle John also have some good moments.
Yeah, no, they really do. I mean, there is like a scene with them walking through the woods and like they're just kind of chatting and having this good old fashioned conversation.
Yep. And I think, like, isn't there even a point where he's a little bit worried about the future of the camp and she's the one that's there to cheer him up?
Yeah, there was that little part about it.
Again, she's a very likable character
When she's not killing.
when she's not doing horrible things.
It's always that finite line. This person's great for the most part. Then they go ahead and slit a few throats.
So, like, there comes a point where Molly is. Oh, wait, no, we need to talk about those references
Oh, yes.
because they're a little bit too glaring to ignore.
Well, which one do you want to start talking about first?
Well, I'm talking about like when they out and out reference um, better horror movies.
So of course. Like, there is a scene where um, two of the kids that basically are just down and out, ready just to declare war on Angela, like try to scare her on Halloween and dress up as, wait for it, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees.
Indeed. And there's a Leatherface too.
Well, that was
Oh no, the other kid is dressed up as Freddy Krueger. So there's a Michael Myers, a Jason Voorhees,
Voorhees
and a
and
Freddy
Freddy
Krueger.
Krueger. Right. So it's like the
So
trifecta of like good 80s slasher movies.
yes. So and I even make the joke when we're watching this, like, never reference a better horror
Mm-hmm.
movie in your horror movie. Are you crazy?
Apparently they were.
So it does not work out very well because
No.
Angela has a classic reference of her own to make.
Well, I mean, she's the one that pops up as Michael Myers.
She's the one that pops up as Leatherface
Oh, it's Leatherface, excuse me, yeah. So you
with a chainsaw and everything.
Oh, that was I love that. I mean, I still kind of, I mean, when I saw that the first time and then I saw it again the second time with you and then seeing it the third time today before doing
Yeah.
the review with you, it's like, yep, that scene never gets old.
No, it doesn't. But still, it's so bizarre because again, it's kind of like the filmmakers are just like, oh, we know.
Fourth wall breaking.
Yes, indeed. It's like we know these are better movies. That's why we referenced them in this shitty movie.
Exactly. And so it doesn't work out for them. And that's kind of, I think, when the real kind of downhill slope begins about, okay, well, we sent these two kids home.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does not work out very well for them at all. And there's even another moment right after Angela kills these kids where she scares the girls and
Molly and a couple
their
of the other
mom.
straight-laced people.
Yeah, and they like absolutely love her for it because they're
Mhm.
like, see, she could be fun.
Exactly. And when she shows up as Leatherface,
Yeah. And again, I'm just like, this is a fucking weird moment.
I mean, it almost felt fourth wall breaking when, like, during the whole costume death scene.
Yeah, it was definitely fourth wall breaking. Leatherface reigns supreme.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely, without question.
And apparently Angela wields all the power.
Oh yeah, no, she definitely does. She is the She-Ra of this pack.
Let's see, there's a great moment where Demi, who is the token black girl,
Because you have to
oh,
have those in 80s movies.
you do. A fun fact: the token black dude's name is Judd, so another Brat Pack.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, but Demi talks too much, and she keeps going on and on about what does not make sense about all these people going home.
It was kind of, yeah, I mean, but it almost feels like that was how she was trying to tie it in because she still had to die.
Yeah.
So by developing an acute case of diarrhea of the mouth,
it's kind of solidified like she sealed her own fate.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Licked the envelope herself with her big mouth.
Yeah.
But there's a wonderful moment where Angela is looking for the perfect murder weapon.
That was great, though. She's just going around the entire cabin.
Yeah, like picking up heavy objects and like bringing it down. Like, is this going to do the right amount of damage?
And
I don't know.
And then Demi was like, "What are you doing?" Because she had her back to Angela the whole time. She's like, "I'm restringing my guitar."
Mm-hmm.
Like, turn around for 30 seconds, Demi. Come on. You'd be out the door and off to the races.
But it's still really clever because if you notice, people who talk a lot don't pay a whole lot of attention to what's going on around them. They want to hear the sound of their own voice.
I think I think of a few people that are like that I know in real life.
I know a couple of people that are like that in real life. So I'm still just like, yeah, no, I buy it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
still hilarious, but I buy that this would actually happen.
Mm-hmm, definitely, yeah. So, I mean, I think that was probably the funniest of the deaths.
It was definitely. It was a great moment. I think like the first time I saw it, I got some laughs, and I was just like, "I'm going to hell."
There's another Rokkit88 going to hell moment.
Yes, that's one of many.
Exactly. Besides all the other comments that we've talked about,
Yeah,
but I mean, but I think it's funny too because like after Demi dies, and then she goes off trying to find something, and there's still the bucket of water trap.
That's right.
So it was almost like we talk about mood whiplash a lot, and I think that pretty much what exemplifies mood whiplash because if you're immediately horrified that she killed this girl for just talking,
and then the water gets dumped on her.
Yeah, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, so now we're back to reality.
Right. It's like in the reality of this very bizarre world.
Mm-hmm.
But it does really like take you out of that moment.
It really does. But
because I mean, if I was going to guess, I would say that scene was not intended to be as funny as it was. So then to dump the water on her after that, that's really an off tone.
I feel like almost they wanted to put that water bucket in an earlier scene and realized they left that like, well, we still have to do it at some point.
That's a good point.
Because there were ample other opportunities for that bucket of water prank to happen.
Yeah, that's true. And that again, that's a really good point.
But basically, it comes down to the end when Angela completely just nonchalantly just tells Molly, she's like, well, everybody got sent home. It's just you and me.
Yep.
And then the other shoe drops and Angela gets canned. So
Yes.
Sean and Molly team up to try and find out what exactly is going on, and that's when they discover the big twist. Well, not even the big twist, the big, what's actually happening.
Reveal.
Exactly, the revelation is that Angela keeps there's this cabin that's been condemned, I guess, for lack of better wording, just off the main area of the camp's grounds. So Angela goes there as kind of her own little sneaking away to be by herself for a little bit. And you don't think about it at the time. They're like, okay, there's something that's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Particularly if you've seen
the first time you see it either.
Well, I mean, particularly if you've seen the first movie in the beginning, is that like, okay, there's definitely something going on behind closed doors, no pun intended.
Right.
But she kept the bodies of all her kills, and that's when you see the gross revelation of like everything. And that part was definitely stomach turning for me. Just not because you see Allie with the leeches still clinging to her face.
Oh, that was gross.
Yeah, but like all the other people, like and some of them were in the process of decomposing.
Which is weird because this happens within like the span of a week.
Exactly.
So yeah, they are all in various stages of decomposition, and I'm kind of like, I don't think that's right, but don't quote me.
Well, yeah. Mind you, I don't have a degree in biology, so who knows what goes on with advanced decomp. This is not an episode of CSI. This is a very schlocky 80s slasher movie.
Yeah, pretty much. It's still like it didn't feel right to me, and it really did kind of take me out of it.
Yeah.
Demi is still breathing in her shot.
That part was hilarious. I did kind of cackle a little bit at that.
It was hilarious, but if you think about it, this is where Angela lives.
Mm-hmm.
And they are in various stages of decomposition. So can you imagine what that smells like?
But,
and that's okay to her. It's like it's normal to her. Her murdering these people has improved them. That's why they're in her house to begin with.
It almost had a Rob Zombie-ish vibe, I could talk, to it.
Yeah, it really did. It really, really did. So, it's supposed to be this really disturbing moment, and at the heart of it, it is. And the heart of this comedic gem, to which you can make all kinds of jokes almost endlessly. You have this very harsh, disturbing, emotionally jarring moment that takes a lot of the fun out of it. And yeah, so when they do things like cut away to Demi when she's still breathing, or like they have these wildly different stages of decomposition, and you're kind of like, I don't think that's right. It does kind of take you out of it because it is, I would say, from a horror standpoint, like the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we're going back to the atmospheric sense, yeah.
Absolutely, because I did not see that coming.
Yeah, neither did I. I expected the bodies to be, left where they were.
Yeah, because she don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm. Like, I almost felt like the Shit Sisters were going to be like these totems. Like the proverbial Kilroy was here, right there.
So some other things that are exposed in this scene is that Sean is the son of the cop that helped arrest Angela.
That was cool, though. I really did appreciate that little, just tie-in.
Yes.
Because it was a legitimate tie-in. It wasn't just like an exposition dump, here's what happened, here's what's going on with this.
Because he is the one telling the story at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. So
and even then, he's like, "Well, my dad was there when they carted her away."
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
then when he tells Angela this wonking plot point, you're just like, oh shit, well his death is earned.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, but I mean, I still think that, I mean, I did get a little bit, irritated. I mean, I knew he was going to die when he was talking about the stories about his dad being a cop. At the same time, like, you just grew to like this dude.
yeah, and that is a really good point. And you do kind of like the relationship that's budding in between him and Molly.
Definitely.
You like Molly as a person because she's so sweet. You like Sean as a person because he's, like kind and he does have a protective demeanor to him.
Yeah.
And then let's see, another thing that happens in this cabin scene actually is that Angela tells us what happened to her in between
Yes.
these two different points in time, and it's
Heavy.
fucked up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is when she goes in detail. She's like, I went through electroshock therapy, I went through the pills, I went through the drugs, I went through all this, and then I had an operation.
Yeah, and she's not talking about having her tonsils taken out.
No.
No, she had a full gender reassignment
Mm-hmm.
that the government paid for because she was a mental patient. Now,
Well, they even allude to that, talking about at the beginning, like that our tax
yes,
dollars paid for.
but nobody believed it.
Well, yeah.
No, even when I saw it for the first time, I was just like, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I actually do have a somewhat of a medical background, and I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that in the real world, there's no way in hell she would be gender reassigned because she's violently, dangerously, mentally unstable. Even if
Mm-hmm.
she had been released, she never would have been reassigned because
Yeah.
she has that history of criminal violence.
Yeah, and I kind of figured that was the case, was that, like, okay, there's no chance in hell
None whatsoever.
that this is the case in point.
But I kind of do appreciate that they went this route.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think like it wasn't really meant to be derogatory in any way towards the LGBT plus community.
No, I agree
It
with
was
you.
just that that was the way that they chose to write this character. Was
Mm-hmm.
that that's to them, to the writers and director, this was the natural evolutionary step for this character.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, yeah, and I didn't see that as like any kind of, like, as you said, derogatory thing towards the LGBTQ community. Plus, I mean, it was just her coming into her own self, and then how she always
Yeah,
says that she's reformed, that she's all better. It's almost
yeah,
like, this is who I am.
exactly. And it's who she's supposed to be. Because if you remember, she did not choose to be raised as a girl.
Right, her aunt did that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, so, and
So in a way, it kind of is like the next natural evolutionary step for her.
exactly.
It's just not a step that would actually be taken in the real world because
Yeah,
nobody would ever reassign her.
precisely. I mean, there's no chance that could actually happen. But then again, this movie was shot in the '80s, so a lot of things have changed since then.
That's true, and that's a decent point.
Mm-hmm. But basically, it's Molly escapes, and Angela basically just goes on this rampage to kill everybody else, so nobody can report her, saying that, okay, well, Angela's back.
Oh yeah, and Sean does die rather horribly.
Yeah, he gets decapitated, and then his head was put in a TV set.
It's actually sad. It sounds like this would be like another campy, funny moment in this movie, but
That really
I,
wasn't.
I didn't like it.
Well, once again,
I
because he
liked
was so
that
likable.
character. Yes, I liked that character. And you really like Molly, and you even, in a weird way, you like Angela.
Mm-hmm.
They do make her a genuinely likable person,
Yeah.
and they show it in some very genuine ways.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. So to have this moment where I wouldn't say Angela snaps, but like she definitely is like, okay, here comes, Plan Omega, kill
It's
everybody
it's
so
kind of
nobody
like
knows.
Yes, it's just like the equivalent of what happens when you back this particular tiger into a corner.
Mm-hmm.
The claws come out,
Exactly.
and her claws come way the fuck out.
Oh, she didn't just have claws. She had talons.
Yeah, she took semantics. Those are synonymous, you
Fair enough.
know.
Usually I hear talons, I think that they're usually longer than claws.
Maybe, but
Oh for
they're
2,
more
knight. Oh for
associated
2.
with they're more associated with eagles.
Yeah,
So I
fair
would
enough.
say a tiger's claws are bigger than an eagle's talons.
Point taken. But she goes off on this rampage, and then
She kills everyone.
everybody except Molly. Where I mean, it's implied that she died until the last 1 minute
Yeah.
when
So
Angela steals a truck. Well, no, she hitchhikes
yeah,
and meets
kills
like
the truck owner.
yeah, who basically for all intents and purposes could have been Ted Nugent's sister.
That was another funny character that I liked.
The 1 minute that she's there,
Yes.
it's like
She's just so funny. Like there's so much personality on that screen. I
yeah.
don't even know her name, but I remember that character.
What was her last line before Angela just reacts and says, like, I'm too sick to stop. I'm too sick to smoke, and I'm too fat to fuck,
Yes.
or something like that.
It was something like that. It was something like that.
Well, it's something related to smoking, but I do remember the too fat to fuck part. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, because we both said it. We were both like, "What the fuck did she just say?"
Mm-hmm. That's what happened. That was hilarious,
Eh,
though.
yes, it was. But I just like it. Cannot forget this woman.
No, you really can't.
I
I
have
mean, that was just
no
like,
idea who she is.
but I want to
Good
shake her
lord.
hand. I want to buy her a beer.
Yes.
Because that was another. I mean, that was another great mood whiplash. Is that you expect Angela to, we expect her to escape, obviously, because sequel bait. But then
Yes.
you just have this completely weird woman that has, for all intents and purposes, even personality-wise, has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. No matter how schlocky
Right.
the other characters were, in walks this redneck from a camp that's supposed to take place in upstate New York,
Yep.
and then you have
But
her.
and then when you find out that it was shot in Waco, Georgia, I'm just like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, now it all comes together.
Fun fact: that's where Rocket went to college.
Hey, there you go. So, but then it cuts to Molly trying to escape as well, and then for sequel bait happens upon the truck with Angela driving.
With Angela driving. So, the glorious and hilarious truck owner is definitely dead.
Well, I mean, she gets stabbed in the throat.
Yeah.
You see that,
Oh,
unfortunately.
yeah. That's right. I forgot about that part.
No, it's all good. I mean, there's certain things I forgot until I watched it this morning.
Yeah, you just watched it. And we can pretty much assume that Molly, because spoiler alert, she does not return in the third installment.
Mm-hmm.
We can assume that she did not need a kind end.
No. But I will say that one ending, although very predictable and still very schlocky in its own right, it is kind of cool how seeing this look of realization dawn on Molly's face when she's like, oh, I need, like, please, 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 I need help. And then, Angela's like, howdy, partner.
Yes.
So just seeing that look of, like, oh, thank God I'm free.
And dread.
Exactly. It's just like, just you see the bottom almost fall out completely.
You really do.
And then flash cut credits.
Yes.
But.
And then on to the next one, literally, because again, these two movies were shot back to back in the same location.
Mm-hmm. But then again, this movie, all in all, was just good quality horror garbage.
It really was.
And
I just like it's really bad. It's not so bad though that your IQ would drop.
Exactly.
If you watched it, it wouldn't even drop if you watched it and enjoyed it. Because I actually have seen this movie several times because I absolutely love it. I love this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Troll 2 bad.
No, now that one will drop your IQ.
That definitely would drop it a few double digits. But this is almost along the lines of like a Godfrey Ho movie because it's so bad it's fun.
Yeah, or maybe like a crappy horror anthology. It's kind of like Creep Show enjoyable, I would say.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good comparison. It's like that's really good. Is yeah, because you have fun with it.
You do. You have a lot of fun with it. It's really bizarre. It's kind of unique in a
Mm,
way, being that, like there's no twist to it.
yeah.
The references that they make, the names of the characters, the way that they interact with each other.
Oh yeah.
Um, let's see. Okay, so before we get to the third one, which will be in a minute anyway, right out the gate, two or three, which one do you prefer?
Probably two.
Same.
Just because I think
There is a
the third one was a little bit too. I'm not saying forced, but like they were just trying to throw everything into one. Like they were trying to find the comedy gold of the second one with the atmosphere of the first one, and just didn't really do it for
and
me.
it didn't really work. Yeah, I agree. Um, there are some good moments in it also, though, that we'll get to when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have to say, yeah, I definitely would pick two over three. Two's just it's too much fun.
Yeah. I mean, if we did have to say an order to watch, I would probably say watch the third one,
Uh
the
oh.
second one, then the first
Hold on a
one.
second. Let me leave and then come back.
Oh yeah, okay. Technical difficulties. Everything okay? Hello? Can you hear me? It appears we're having technical difficulties. Are you there? Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. Of course we're having technical difficulties. But I guess, give me 1 second, let's see. I think this is technical issues on my end. Yeah, those are on my end. 1 second. Will it work this time? Let's see if this works now. Nope, of course not. So as we're coming close to the end of this review, of course, we're running into technical fouls. And she dropped off the call again. That was my fault. Let's see if this one works. Come on now. You can behave. Okay, so it looks like we are having some technical issues with the internet all of a sudden. Not really sure why. Try one more time. If that's not the case, then we will just go ahead and close it out for now because, of course, we're having issues during this recording time. That never fails. So let's try this for good measure one final time. It's not working. Yeah, so I think what I would have to do would be having to say that watch the third one, the second one, and then the first one, and that's probably the best bet in my personal opinion, because you're gonna get these things. You're gonna enjoy it one way or the other, but still, this one's comedy gold compared to the third one, and the first one is still the best of everything. But of course, that's just my opinion. I'm gonna try this one more time. Of course, the internet crapped out. Never fails, y'all. Never fails. Come on, you can do it. That's we're doing the closeout. Nope, still not gonna do that. Okay, so of course, my opinion doesn't matter. Only y'all's does. So definitely let me know what y'all think in the comments below. And of course, Rokkit88 is a fantastic content creator, so definitely go check her out. I will put a link in the description below to her Twitter page account, her YouTube page, and her Twitch page, so definitely give it a go. But other than that, before I call it a session, if you like the Boogie Knight project and you want to check out more, I do have a Twitter page, as well as a public Discord channel. Links to both of those are in the description below, as well as a link to my Twitch page, and if you have some money to get rid of without throwing off a bridge, my Patreon account. So, of course, with that being said, as always, y'all have a fantastic afternoon, and I'll catch you on the flip side, alright? Peace.